But first I want to jump into some of the things that are in the Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett handbook. And one of those is about risk and about understanding risk. So you guys heard a bunch of successful transactions yesterday, did you not? Yeah, there are plenty of successful transactions. There are plenty of non-success. It's just as easy to be a good investor as it is to be a bad investor and make mistakes. But one of the biggest things is that you have to evaluate and understand is all of the risk. And sometimes risk is what is left over after you analyze everything else. These are the things that you thought, oh, I've analyzed everything. And then what happens? Something comes in that surprises you. And I'll talk about this in the next presentation as well, but probably one of my favorite quotes from Morgan Housel, The Psychology of Money, is he says this, he says, plan on the plan, not going according to plan, because things that have never happened before, well, they happen all the time. Is that true? Murphy's Law? Well, I think it's, and you know, did anybody in 2019 forecast COVID? No. We have once in a lifetime events that happen to us all the time. And a lot of those times are not in our risk factors, or not in our risk ratio. So understand what those risk factors are. Understand as much as you can what those risks are. Measure those risks. And also know that risk is what's left over after you've accounted for everything else. You can have the best spreadsheet in the world. One of my first coaches, he said to me this, he said, Shanoa, garbage in, garbage stays in, garbage makes little garbage babies. Think about that. Those garbage babies fill out our spreadsheet and tell us this is a good investment decision. So incorporate an appropriate margin of safety. When we're raising capital, do we want to raise just enough capital? We need to raise more, because what's going to happen? Something that is not going to go according to plan, right? Avoid dealing with people with questionable character. So doing a sponsor review, something really important. Insist upon proper compensation for risk assumed. I see this all the time with people who want to go into second lien positions, for example, in residential real estate, which Phil and I literally, it's like, those are eggs that are really difficult to unscramble, because no matter how much compensation you get for being in a second lien position, does it account for you maybe losing it all, right? Always beware of inflation and interest rate exposures. This book that I'm quoting from right here, Poor Charlie's Almanack, it was probably written in like 1990s or 2000s, early 2000s, when we had what kind of inflation? None. We had 2 to 3% inflation. And then what kind of inflation have we had over the last couple of years? A lot more, big inflation, and it's been kind of sticky. And then what did that cause our federal government or the Federal Reserve to do? Raise those interest rates. Most syndicators weren't exactly planning on that speed, because we've never seen that speed of interest rate increases. And Phil always asks anytime he sees like someone's performa, especially on something that goes out over 5-7 years, because it's hard to say exactly what's going to happen over 5 to 7 years. They'll always ask the question, well, what will happen if interest rates go to 15%? Because Phil, the first house that he ever bought right after he graduated from college and started working was at 15%, or maybe even higher, interest rate. So he remembers that. And sometimes we forget these things, but that was something that made a deep impression on him, right? So the psychology of money. What are some of those things that made those deep impressions of you that cause you to question things in a certain way, that cause you to take on certain risk or not take on other risks? So avoid big mistakes and shun permanent capital losses. And he also talks about this concept of reputational risk. So who are my Game of Thrones fans in here? Okay, all right, good. All right, good. There was one family in there that always paid their debts, and it was the Lannisters. And for Phil and I, we always say, you can call me a Lannister, because I'm always going to pay my debt. Why? Because my reputation is more important than whether or not I make or lose money on this deal. Because once you lose your reputation, do you ever get it back? You can spend 21 years building your reputation, and you can spend 5 minutes losing it completely. And there was a quote that I loved. Reputation, like a photograph, is best developed in the dark times, in the hard times. Like, show me who you are in the hard times, and I'll show you who you will be in all times. So you got to make sure to avoid any of those reputational risks that might cause you to lose money, lose someone else's capital forever.
Click on the link in the comments below, and we're going to put all the information. How can you come meet me live and all my power team as well? This is why I'm not hiding, because it did transform my life and other thousands of other people as well. And it can transform your life. You can get your financial situation to the next level with you and your family and everyone surround you. So this is why I love to share my journey, because I want you to start living the American dream, not just dream that you could have, but not taking the right action because no one have told you that you don't need money, you don't need credit scores. Worry about your credit score, and you don't need to have money, but you do need to know who you are working with and how to learn with the right people. So click on the link in the comment below, and we'll put more information how you can come meet us live and online as well for you to start changing your life with us right now.